Hi everyone. So I previously recorded this a while ago and my audio was messed up, so I'm just going to do a voiceover. The lesson is on solving and graphing inequalities. We've solved equations in the past before, but this time it's inequalities, so let's just go ahead and get into it. So the first thing that I do is I kind of outline the goals on this worksheet. And I'm highlighting those right now. By the way, you can go ahead and follow along. I attached a blank worksheet and you could just follow along with me. Although you don't have to, it's not something that I'm collecting. So the first thing that I end up doing after talking about the goals is I talk about the different symbols that we're using. I circled those in blue. The first symbol is the less than symbol. So it gives you the symbol and then it tells you how to say it in words. So again, the first one is less than. The next symbol is greater than. Notice that less than and greater than are just less than, just greater than, and they don't have an equal to. The next one is less than or equal to. Another way you can say less than or equal to is at most, and the last is greater than or equal to or at least. These are the four symbols that we use when we're writing or solving inequalities. Notice that the less than symbol looks like the letter L if you kind of stretch it out. That's how you can remember. I honestly still use that to remember, and then the greater than doesn't. So I just showed you that on the side. So it looks like the next thing I did was I went over the what does this mean column. So it puts the symbol into an expression for you like, or I'm sorry, an inequality for you, like x is less than 2, which means all numbers less than 2. X is greater than 2, so that's all numbers greater than 2. X is less than or equal to 2, that's all numbers less than or equal to 2. Or you could also say at most 2. Last one is all numbers greater than or equal to 2, or at least 2. The next thing I want you to see is how you graph these. So for the first two, for less than and for greater than, you want to use an open circle when you're graphing, and I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. But an open circle pretty much means that the number, in this case 2, is not included in your solution, okay? The next option we have is the closed circle. It's the one at the bottom, and you use a closed circle whenever you have an equal to. So when you graph, you're going to put a closed circle at 2. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and get into the problems. I'm going to start with number 1. So for number 1, all you have to do is put the correct inequality symbol. This one has a 4 and then the 5. I know 5 is bigger, so I'm going to put the less than symbol because I know that 4 is less than 5. All right. For number 2, it has the number 7 and then it has the number 4. This one I'm going to say 7 is greater than 4. You can also think back to elementary school. Maybe your teacher did the like alligator mouth and the alligator's eating 7 because it's larger. On the next one, the number 3, it has two negative numbers. So if you're ever confused, draw a number line. On the number line, I included the number 0. And then I kind of went back and said, well, hey, -8 is all the way over to the left. And then before that on the number line is a number -4. So if you're in doubt, draw a number line. And on the number line, you could see -4 is bigger. It's furthest to the right. So that one has a greater than symbol. For number 4, you have -14 and 14. This one's going to be a less than symbol. -14 is less than +14. The last one is a fraction, and I know you're terrified of fractions, but that's okay. What I do is I like to draw a picture. So for the first fraction, if you have a pizza, let's say, you have 2 slices because that's the denominator, and you have 1 out of those slices colored in. For the next fraction, 1/4, you have 4 slices on your pizza, but only 1 of them is colored in. So that one's going to be 1 out of 4. Okay. From that, you can see that 1/2 is larger than 1/4. So that's a greater than symbol. All right, the next set of problems is graphing inequalities. So for number 6, you have the inequality x is greater than 4. For this inequality, you want to look at your inequality. We have a greater than symbol. We don't have an equal to. We know we're going to have an open circle based on the information that we talked about earlier. And then we have the number 4. So what you want to do is, here I'm spelling out greater than. But what you want to do is on the number 4, you're going to put an open circle. And then because it's greater than, you want to think of numbers that are greater than 4. So on 4 is an open circle, and you're going to shade to the right because all of the numbers to the right are greater than 4. Okay, and then this is me taking forever and a day to show that. Again, I recorded this earlier, so I was probably being a lot more elaborate. And then I kind of just walk through a ton of examples. So for number 7, that one, I don't like how it's written. You have the number written first and then the variable. And I kind of showed you how to move that around. So we want the variable to be on the left-hand side. So what I did was I rewrote it. And you want to keep some things in mind when you rewrite it. So I wrote X on the left, but when you rewrite it, you want to change your inequality sign. It's actually going to flip. So right now it's less than or equal to, and it's going to become a greater than or equal to. So that's what I did. And then your number, you just rewrite it. It's at -3. So again, your inequality symbol here is a greater than or equal to. So because it has an equal to, you know it's going to have a closed circle, and it's going to have a closed circle at -3. Okay. Because it's a greater than or equal to, you know it's going to end up you're going to end up shading to the right because all of the numbers to the right are greater than or equal to -3. Okay, so the next problem I did was number 8. X is already on the left, so you just want to look at your symbol. Your inequality sign is a less than sign. It doesn't have an equal to, so I know it's an open circle on 7. So I'm going to go ahead and shade to the left because it's less than. Number 9 is also not written in the correct format, so you just want to switch it. Put your X on the left, change your inequality sign, and then add the 4. Your greater than sign turned into a less than or equal to, and then you want to go ahead and put a closed circle and then shade to the left for that one. So for the next set, you're writing inequality using the graph. You just want to use X as your variable. Honestly, it doesn't matter what variable you use. But I know because I have a closed circle, I'm going to use an equal to. And since I'm shading to the right, I'm going to use a greater than or equal to. And the number I'm going to use is -3, sorry. And then you want to rewrite it in the second form. So that's just writing it with the number first, switch your inequality sign, and then your variable. For the next one, I'm using X again, the number 1, because that's where the circle is. Since it's shading to the left, it's going to be less than, but it's not equal to because the circle is not filled in. Then the next thing I did was just rewrite it, number first, then inequality sign, flipped, and then your variable. All right, for the next one, you're going to do the same thing. The number is 3. I know my inequality is X, and for this one it's going to be, I put X is less than 3, but that's not right. It should be X is greater than 3. That's my bad. So it should be X is greater than 3, and then the other one should be X is less than, 3 is less than X. Okay. For the next part, I just wanted to remind you guys to look up at the top if you're confused. You're just writing an inequality now based on a phrase. All right. And I ended up skipping some of those. The next problem set is at the bottom, okay? So at the bottom, they first want you to solve an equation, and they have an inequality to the right that's almost identical, but they want you to start off by just solving an equation. So if you have x plus 9 equals 12, we know we can solve by subtracting 9 on both sides, and we get x equals 3. The solution is x equals 3, and there is only one solution. The solution is the number 3. You can always plug it back in to check. So 3 plus 9 is equal to 12. So that's 12 equals 12, and that checks out. On the right, We have the same thing, only instead of equal, we have a less than sign. But you want to solve the same way. You just want to bring the inequality sign down. So our solution is x is less than 3. For this one, I drew a number line for you guys to graph it. So now that we know how to graph it, I put a 3, I put an open circle shaded to the left, and that means that any number to the left of 3 is the solution. So I just kind of listed some numbers for you, and I picked a number and tried to substitute. I picked 1. If we plug 1 in, we get 10 is less than 12. That checks out. So what I did was I just went ahead and said that's infinite solutions because any number less than 3 works. All right, the next problem set is going to be just like your homework. Solve and graph each inequality. Isolate your variable. First one we get is x is greater than 4. To graph, put the number 4. I just picked the middle since it's not labeled. Open circle, shade to the right because your inequality is a greater than. So I just went ahead and shaded to the right. Number 18, 3x is less than or equal to 9. For that one, I divided by 3 on both sides. Said x is less than or equal to 3. Put a 3 in the middle. This time it's a filled in circle shaded to the left. X is less than or equal to 3. Number 19, you want to add 9 to both sides. You get x is less than 26. Put the 26 in the middle and then go ahead and shade to the left with an open circle. Number 20 is a fraction, and I know you guys get confused. Just think of it as x divided by 3. So because you're dividing, you want to do the opposite and multiply. You get x is greater than 6. Put the 6 in the middle, open circle, and then shade to the right because you have a greater than sign. For the next step, you want to look at this note, and it says when you multiply or divide, you have to, or by a negative, you have to flip the inequality sign, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. So I'm dividing by -5. So I have x is now greater than or equal to. You want to flip the inequality when you divide or multiply by a negative. We get x is greater than or equal to -5, graph and shade. Same thing with the next one. You have x divided by -6. You want to multiply by -6. Again, whenever you multiply or divide by a negative, you flip your inequality. So now we have x is less than -42. So put the -42 in the middle and then shade to the left. For number 23, you're going to solve for x by subtracting 5 on both sides. You want to isolate x. You get -7 is less than x, but the format of this one is not right. You want to go ahead and move your variable so that it's on the left. So for this one, we're going to have x is greater than -7, open circle, shade to the right. For number 24, I'm subtracting 1 on both sides. You get 14x is greater than or equal to 28. Divide by 14, x is greater than or equal to 2. Remember, when you add or subtract by a negative, the sign doesn't change. It's only when you multiply or divide by a negative. Next one, add 9. You get -7x is greater than or equal to -35. You divide by a negative, so your sign changes. So you get x is less than or equal to +5 for that one. So you want to graph. Close circle at 5, shade to the left. And the last one, x divided by -3. -5 is less than 3. So add 5 to both sides to isolate x. You have x divided by -3 is less than 8. You want to multiply by -3 to isolate your x. So that's what I did to both sides. But because you're doing it to both sides, you want to remember to change your inequality sign. So we have x is greater than -24. Again, label your -24, open circle since it's not equal to, and then you're shading to the right because it's greater than. So now you're ready to practice your homework. Remember, when it's greater than, you're going to go ahead and shade to the right. When it's less than, you shade to the left. Remember to study your inequality symbols. You will be doing this on your homework. If you have any questions, make sure you let me know during office hours. And then again, just a reminder that when you're solving your inequalities, You want to go ahead and look for multiplying and dividing by negatives. Whenever that happens, you want to make sure you flip the inequality sign. All right, guys, thank you for sitting through this.